Hey, Diego here, founder of WiFi Tribe. I'm really excited. This is our first episode back for the podcast, and I'm going to take you 9 years back, all the way back to the beginning of WiFi Tribe. I want to tell you how and why we started WiFi Tribe. I'm going to tell you a little bit about also the reason why I didn't quit on it, because trust me, there were so many moments where I was this close and where the logical thing would have just been to say, okay, this is too difficult. Let's move on and do something else. I also want to share with you, I think the one thing or the one reason why I feel WiFi Tribe survived, even though over 200 other companies or communities that were in the space with us in the beginning are no longer around. So look out for that. I'm going to answer the what is a WiFi Tribe question. So spoiler alert, it is not a travel company. It is a little bit more complex than that, but I'm going to tell you all about that. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who WiFi Tribe is for. So if you're curious, this might be a really interesting part of the podcast for you. And then I will share with you our secret to bringing amazing people together every single time. And ultimately, in the end, I just want to finish it off by telling you about the future of WiFi Tribe. Where are we headed, so that you get to decide whether you want to be along for that journey. See you there.
Where in the world are you, Diego?
Yeah, I'm currently in Bali. I just got here. We were just in Japan. We had a chapter there, and back in Bali now, which has basically become I'd say one of my two home bases. Spend a lot of time here.
Yeah, and before we started speaking, you said you've become quite a slow mad.
Yeah, well, Milan, I've been doing this for 9 years, so I feel like I've earned that title at this point. A slow mad to me means I'm spending, at least right now, I'm spending about 2 to 3 months in a place. I'd be happy to spend even longer in places. So by now, I've got a bunch of places that I really love, and I'm going to try to go back there. It's often places where the tribe is, where there's community, so that I can just plug myself right back in. And it's places that I've traveled to in the past that I don't know, I just had a connection with, and I have the chance to come back there. And really, it's about finding a way to come home to places. So it might even mean taking the same accommodation, having maybe some things in storage like I have here in Bali with a friend. And then we go there to our favorite cafe. He's got all of our items. And I ask him for a coffee, and I ask him for our helmets and our mosquito racket and everything else that we have there. And and then we're settled right back in.
Beautiful. You seem to have got it down to a fine art. And it brings me to the first question that I want to ask you, which is why? Why, Diego? Why are you living this lifestyle? Why WiFi Tribe? It's just a big why.
I think, honestly, Milan, I think it goes back to my childhood. I grew up moving from place to place about every 2 years on average. My dad worked in the oil industry, and it meant that we were just constantly changing the places. But for some reason, as a kid, instead of feeling really stressed about that, there was I associated some form of excitement with it. It was this idea that every time that I get on the plane, my whole life is going to change, but in a really, really cool way, right? I'm going to go to a new place and experience something totally different. It was only after I had arrived in those places that I started to realize, oh, crap, where are all my friends? Like, I've left all of them behind. So I think that piece stuck with me. And when I then, went to university, I studied in the UK, so also a different place I'm not from. And after that, I realized that this was a life that I wanted to continue. I didn't have it all figured out by any means. I had no idea what that was going to look like. All I knew was that this idea of travel was going to be a big part of my life.
Right. And how many countries had you sort of been living in or visited through that early stage of your life?
So I was born in Germany. When I was about 2 years old, my parents moved to Mexico. Then we moved to Venezuela, then to the United States and Texas briefly. All of this happened before I was even in elementary school. Then we moved back to Venezuela. We stayed a little bit longer there until Chavez came into power, and then everybody left the country. Then we moved to Oman. That was very different, really, really exciting. So you can see it's all the oil countries. And then after that, we moved to Norway. Stayed there for the longest time for me as a kid. And after that, then I briefly started studying in Germany. Realized it wasn't quite the place or the studies for me. and then I moved on to studying in the UK. And so that was kind of my upbringing in the different countries that I had the chance to live in. Yeah, and then about a year after that, a year or two, no, actually, sorry, 2 years after that, we started to travel again, and shortly after that, got into Wi-Fi Tribe and all of this craziness, which basically meant that instead of staying 2 months in a place, 2 years in a place, I'd be staying a month at a time in a place and then hopping.
Yeah. You mentioned that Germany wasn't quite the place for you, studies wise. And then you mentioned that you ultimately ended up settling in the UK. And obviously, I think I know you relatively well. And I know that that was like quite a pivotal decision in terms of the story of Wi-Fi Tribe, but also in terms of what would become this dream for you. What about the UK was it that pulled you in, that was attractive, that had you say, yes, this is the place for me?
I think I'm going to start with saying, what about Germany didn't fit for me? So I am half German, half Bolivian. And there's this weird thing that whenever I'm in a group of Germans, because I never actually grew up in Germany, I feel like I can't quite keep up. I can't quite keep up with the TV shows they watch, the sense of humor, the lingo. All it's just that I haven't been in that culture long enough to feel like it's second nature, right? And the same with people coming from Bolivia. I absolutely love it. I love any Latin American environment, but it's the same. Similarly, I feel like I just haven't grown up with that culture in the same way, right? So what I did grow up with was these international schools. So it's these international environments where, first of all, everybody speaks English, so that already helps. But also in international environments, everyone's coming from a different place. It's this mix of cultures. And the mix of cultures creates a level playing field where you communicate with each other on this international level, right? So the language is international, is more kind of like toned down, internationalized. The sense of humor is you're now adopting things from all over the world and from the local country that you're in that moment, but you're also not super local, right? And going to the UK to study there, in a university where there were a lot of people from other countries as well, I think that gave me a little bit back of that environment that I had while I was growing up.
I'm smiling because at the beginning of the sentence you said, whenever I'm in a group of Germans, and my mind immediately went to, what's the collective noun for a group of Germans?
I think it's called a Birkenstocks.
Birkenstocks of Germans. Yes. I think that's exactly what it is. Pretty sure that's in the dictionary. Okay, brilliant. So you then settled in the UK, you studied there, and shortly after, this crazy adventure that is Wi-Fi Tribe came into being. What was the process? What was the kind of pain personally that had this be the solution for you?
Yeah, I think I have to tell you what happened in between. All right. So when I finished studying, first I thought I was also going to join a corporate job. I was probably going to get into the oil industry. I was probably going to travel the world in that way, like my dad did. I don't know what happened in the last year at university. A few opportunities kind of lined up and had me going down this entrepreneurial path. It was also a time when all of the governments were pushing entrepreneurship because that was their solution to all of their, fiscal problems that they had at that time. And so they were hyping people up to become entrepreneurs, which I think some of it is good. In other cases, it's a big problem because so many people got really excited about it and then didn't manage to succeed in that process, yes. Right? And I will say, I was actually, for most of those years, one of those people, right? I took out the student loans, which I just recently paid back. So like this is something that can really loom over your head if you really lean into it early on. I tried a bunch of different businesses because I just thought, oh yeah, this is my thing. I want to build a business. I want to create something along these lines. And they just didn't work out, right? So I had been spending this first half of my 20s right after university, where it's the most exciting years. You've got all this energy. You want to go out there and see the world, especially Mike, because I knew I wanted that. I've been spending them just working really hard, trying to figure out this startup thing, basically not meeting many people, not living the life that I actually wanted to live. Until at one point we were at the end of, I don't know, the third, fourth failed startup, and I just realized like this isn't going anywhere. This dream, is this even my dream, or is it just something that the government or society gave me and said you got to go on this path? And I said, all right, well, I think I still want to come back to this at some point in the future. I'm going to shelve this idea of becoming an entrepreneur, and I'm going to focus on the thing that I was missing, which was I wanted to be able to travel. Of course, I wanted to keep working on something I cared about, because I actually enjoy working, right? It's not like I'm running away from that. So I do have passion for the things that I work on. And I really wanted to spend more time around people. And with that, I also meant not just randomly, but I wanted to find a way to surround myself more intentionally with people that I'm excited to be around, that inspired me, that I could learn from, right? That I could do something exciting with. And so the idea then was, let me use whatever I think I've learned from the startup journey and become a freelancer. And I figured out maybe marketing, because I kind of studied that, and I've kind of been doing a bit of that in these startups. And then maybe I can go to Bolivia, invite a bunch of people over there. So Bolivia, my childhood home, my parents had a home there, and I said, okay, why not start there, right? And so I sent an email out to 100 friends and dropped a bunch of messages on these Facebook groups. That was the platform of back then. Guys, bear with me. This was like 10 years ago. And people...
You're dating yourself.
And people... yeah, we only had, I said, guys, just come over. It's going to be an amazing month together. Just bring your work if you have something. I'm going to try to work on something as well. And over the weekends, I'm going to show you around, and we can go on the adventures that I used to love doing as a kid, right? It's going to be really cool, right? Only 7 people said yes. And it was free. I wasn't charging anything for it at that time. So by all rights, you look at it and you go, okay, well, that didn't really work out too well. But the month in Bolivia was everything that I had been missing for those last 5 years, right? So it was this, I was on a permanent high for that month, and it felt the same for everybody who was there. So as we went through that time, we had this idea of what happens if we could keep going with this, right? Where would we want to go next? And so we threw together a really simple Squarespace website at that time and said, well, let's find our next destination. So we wanted to go to Costa Rica. That's what we all agreed on. We started to search on Airbnb. I think we zoomed out a little bit too far, found this beautiful place, said, okay, we're going to go there. And then someone's like, wait a minute, guys, I think that's in Nicaragua. And so we're like, yeah, but it's really nice. So we ended up going to Nicaragua, and that was our second ever chapter, I guess you could say, the first official one, where I used my very limited marketing skills at that time to run our first ads. And those first Facebook ads, they actually helped, right? They actually allowed us to kick this off and just be seen by a few more people. It was super, super organic. It was literally like, hey, here's this random dude called Diego from the internet, and you should come and join him on a trip to Nicaragua, of all places. Sounds super dodgy. You're going to meet a bunch of internet strangers, and it's going to be great. We're going to travel the world together. So I have no idea why people joined. I have no idea how it turned out that people were like, yeah, this is going to be great. This is a wonderful idea. I mean, there's an element of it. Don't get me wrong. It's exciting. It's adventurous. It's just so adventurous, right? It was really out there. But yeah, luckily people joined. And I think there's something to be said also about those people who jump on something like that early on. It's a very interesting group of people, right? They're those freedom-loving, adventurous people who say yes to things. It's a kind of person that you really want to have around, especially when you're traveling. So I'll say that was kind of it. After that, we kept on picking another place. We went on to, what was next? It was Portugal, and then we had one in Italy, and then we went to Croatia, then Bali, and we just kept going one by one, right? And it was it was super organic. It was just us as a group of people sort of moving from one place to the next and always adding a few more people in. I was just folding another few people in who wanted to join that crew. And so it just started, it just felt like it was just a group of friends traveling the world together, and it was starting to get momentum. I was earning absolute peanuts at that time. Like, what we were doing was making zero financial sense. I was still doing my freelance work, but it came to this moment where I couldn't sustain it in terms of the workload. So I had to drop what I was doing on a freelance basis, which was totally fine, because again, I wasn't a great freelancer. I wasn't earning that much off of it, and focus fully on Wi-Fi Tribe. And I mean, there's a ton more stories. I would love to tell more of these on future podcasts, like the time that the FBI got involved, the time that we almost got evicted from Italy.
What?
There's a whole lot of stories from the early days that we're gonna have to do a proper session on. So if you're following along, definitely keep an eye out for those. They're a lot of fun, but they do take a while, and we can't start in the middle. But yeah, crazy first year, Milan. I can't tell you that. I think the only reason I kept going back then was actually because I had some of my parents' money locked in. If it wasn't for that, and me having to try to find a way to get that back out, I think I would have said, this is too crazy and too much work, too much effort. Thank God they believed in it. Thank God they trusted me with that. And yeah, that we didn't let go back then, because yeah, be sad if we weren't around right now. I'd be bummed for sure.
Me too. Me too. I mean, it's interesting. You know, you're talking about how, you know, you wouldn't necessarily have continued had you not had that, not only that vote of confidence from your parents, but also that internal sense of like, I actually owe someone this. I owe someone this money, but it's beyond the money. It's like they've put forward their sort of goodwill. They've put their faith in me, essentially, to make something of this idea. And there's so many beautiful entrepreneurial stories that have that as a common thread, is that someone stood for you and stood for your greatness. And that's really beautiful. And at the beginning of this story, you mentioned that you said, this is what you said: I sent out a few emails to 100 friends. Diego, 100 friends is a lot of friends. That's a lot of friends. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I want to get a little bit practical with you. And a large part of the success of Wi-Fi Tribe has been built on really understanding the character of the people involved. So I want to start by asking you, what's your personality type? Like, what kind of person has 100 friends?
Okay, I think I'm going to have to caveat that by saying, let's say 100 friends and acquaintances. But I appreciate you. I am an ENFP. ENFP is the campaigner. And I don't know, what can I tell you about my personality type? The ENFP supposedly is a bit of a dreamer, very, very passionate about things that they do. Definitely the kind of person to do this lifestyle. So very interestingly, and this is another whole podcast episode that I'd love to get into with you guys, because I think it's fascinating. But the ENFP type is one of the most overrepresented types in Wi-Fi Tribe, and there's one other type as well. Again, we'll go into that on another podcast episode. But again, I think it is because of being so open and so curious about, in this case, this lifestyle, wanting to travel. So yeah, there's a lot of that. Going on an adventure, I think.
And why is it relevant though? Why are the characters of the people involved relevant to the success of Wi-Fi Tribe?
Right. That is a great question. Wi-Fi Tribe, at its core, I think. Okay, so there have been probably more than 200 companies that have come and gone through the years. Right? Again, a decade. Most of those happened in the beginning. Initially, we started to track our competitors, right? Who else is in the space? We did the thing that every startup is meant to do, right? We had our spreadsheet. The rate at which new companies or ideas were entering the space and then exiting again was absolutely wild. So there was a moment where we said, we can't keep up with this. It's not a good use of our time. We're just going to stop at this point. And if someone really starts to do well, we'll notice anyway, right? So fast forward from that time, right now, there's not a single company that started back then that's still standing in that way today. There have been others that have joined the space, and there's been more movement, especially since the pandemic again. But I'm saying all of this because I believe that there was one thing that allowed us to stay around. And I did not know it at the time. I had no idea about this. I truly believe it boils down to the community, the focus on community, and specifically the focus on bringing together people who shared similar values. But not in the, oh yeah, it'd be nice if everybody kind of agrees to this or agrees to that. No, really going hardcore on figuring out what values we want to have in this community, how we're building this culture out intentionally for this community, and what it looks like for people to actually live by those values and already have those values. Because my basic philosophy on this is, it's what any business owner, startup person is going to tell you. You don't hire for skills primarily, you hire for the right culture fit, because it's incredibly difficult to change someone's values. Values is something that you grow up with, right? You spend your whole life kind of fine-tuning that and then ultimately arriving at the values that you live by. You can't change that quickly. You can't change that overnight. So what great companies do is they bring people together who share the same values. And if you think about each person as a circle in a team, and you were to bring all of those circles together, and that each circle represents the person's values. If you overlap them all, you have this one big Venn diagram of overlapping circles. The middle, where all of those circles overlap, is the culture of the company by default, whether you decided that was going to be your culture or not. Because what everybody has in common in terms of their values, that will ultimately be the strongest defining factor of the culture in your company. The same is absolutely 100% true for communities. So if you want to build an intentional community, if you have an idea of, I want this culture, I want these values to be present in my community, then you don't go about it by bringing everybody in and saying, all right, guys, let's all agree on these values. Or, all right, guys, why don't we all live in this way or agree on that, right? What you do is you find the people that already hold those values, already live by those values. And in our community, obviously now so many more people, currently we're 700 active members, that's 700 circles. But the middle part of those 700 circles, if you put them all together, of values, ends up being the specific Wi-Fi Tribe values that we make our decision by in terms of bringing somebody into the community. And that is the reason why I believe that we've stayed around all of these years. That is something very difficult to copy. It's very abstract. It doesn't make business or financial sense for a very long time. So you have to make this long-term bet on this, because it's going to take a while to come into effect. And I think while everybody else was focusing on getting the logistics right, on making, taking care of as many of the little pieces of the experience for people as possible, we did all of the basics on that we needed, but we went really, really, really deep and obsessed over bringing the right people together. And when I say bringing the right people together, I don't want this is really important. I don't want this to sound or feel exclusive or douchey. Like, it's not exclusive for the sake of exclusivity. The part of this, I'd say it's intentional, right? So it's about deciding who exactly are we? What exactly are our values? If you believe in those too, if those are values that you already live by yourself, oh my God, you're going to love it here, because you're going to find the highest concentration of people who share your core values that you will ever find anywhere in the world. So the likelihood that you're going to have an incredible experience and you're going to have really deep connections, you're going to meet business partners, you're going to meet friends for life, you're going to meet the group of friends that you can travel the world with permanently. And that is literally what's been happening over the last 10 years. You might even find, your future partner and have tribe babies, and there have been several of those as well, right? So the point is, if you bring the right people together and they align, all of these things can happen. If you have a fundamental mismatch in what you say you are and the people that then join, that's when you really end up getting friction and when it starts to crumble from the inside.
You've given us a huge amount to think about in terms of not only the reasons why this process is important, but how you go about doing it. But I'm interested in what your experience was prior to implementing this process that had you sit down and go, okay, Diego, you need to have some kind of process that ensures that we get a certain kind of person in this community.
Yeah. I can tell you it wasn't brilliance. It was a lot of trial and error. Before we started Wi-Fi Tribe, and when I was kind of doing all the different startups and trying and failing, everything that I worked on had something to do with kind of the entrepreneurial space and, more importantly, community building, right? At one point, I wanted to create an app where I could bring entrepreneurs together, build this community that would be global, where people would just meet each other through the app, meet in person. It's funny because that app has now been effectively created by a member, Thierry, for our community. So it's wonderful to see that full circle. But that was one attempt. I completely failed at creating it back then. Another thing that we tried to do was we were building out, we were part of these conferences, student conferences for entrepreneurs and other sort of leadership professionals. And at those conferences, there were always these parties, right? One of them was called a Party of Nations, where everybody dressed up in their national outfits. And we thought, well, wait a minute, these parties are the coolest part of the conference. It's where everybody connects and it's where all the fun happens. It's where you build the relationships that last way beyond the conference. So we said, what if we could keep partying after that and keep connecting after that? By the way, I sound like a total party bro. I've way calmed down, and that is not what Wi-Fi Tribe is all about. But bear with me. This is my history. Some of the good and some of the bad. And so we built this
recovering party bro.
Oh yeah. No, I'm out of that life now. So we brought these people together again after those conferences and basically hosted trips with them. So you can see this already starts to move towards that direction of Wi-Fi Tribe. That's actually where we first decided that 25 people was going to be the maximum size of our groups, because we realized if you go beyond that, the group starts to break apart a little bit. And it was all of these small realizations that got us to that point. And one of those realizations was we saw when on some of those trips or in some of those communities, there were value mismatches and the impact that those value mismatches had. We also saw when there was a strong cohesion that was based on either values or a common sense of identity. And that communities that had that, they were so much stronger. People just gelled so much better. And so right from the beginning, we decided that there was going to be an interview process. So that happened with Nicaragua. Bolivia was, first ad hoc try, but Nicaragua was the first moment where we said, if we're going to put ads out there into the world, and there's basically no way to see who's going to join us, from that moment onward, we need to have something that helps us make sure that the people that are going to come together are really going to fit. An easier way for anybody listening to think about this is if you were to set up a little co-live situation, right? And you wanted to you've got an apartment, you've got three bedrooms in it, you want to bring 2 other people in. You would probably want to have a conversation with the people that you're about to spend the next 2 years living together with, because it's going to be intimate. You're going to be spending a lot of time with them. You're really going to be in each other's spaces, and you're basically forming a very, very tiny community in that moment. On a chapter, and in a moment where you're basically trying to stomp community out of the ground, out of nothing, in not even a month, in a matter of days, because the whole chapter is a month long, right? But you want community to exist as quickly as possible so the rest of the chapter can be absolutely incredible and there's a strong feeling of connectedness, right? If you want to achieve that fast, I believe the only way to really, really nail it is to bring the right people together so that from day one, there's this feeling of like, wow, it feels like I've known you for years, right? But that's because you have so much in common with these people at the core. And it's not about your professions. It's not about where you come from, what nationality you are. It's not all of those surface level things. What really connects somebody with somebody else halfway across the world who they've never met before is a feeling that you resonate on these core values. It's like a chord. If you're playing the guitar, it's like a chord. You pluck that chord and it sounds good. That chord resonates, right? If you mess the chord up, you pluck it and it sounds horrible, and everybody realizes that you have no idea what you're doing on the guitar, right? That's dissonance. Dissonance with people in groups of people happens when the values that people have at their core are clashing with each other, right? It comes out in the smallest things and it comes out all the time.
True, very true. You mentioned that that the things you're looking for are not necessarily people's professions or ethnicities or backgrounds or nationalities. And so I'm wondering, well, who is this for then?
Well, actually, if we're going to talk about backgrounds, nationalities, ethnicities, the more diversity, the better, right? Going back to my experience as a kid and the environment that I felt best in, that international environment, I want to recreate that. I never want to let that go. And the future of Wi-Fi Tribe is always going to be the most international version of it that we can possibly create, right? But who is Wi-Fi Tribe really for? It's for people who, I put it simply, it's for people who live boldly. I know it sounds lofty, but I truly believe that. It's for people who have dreams for their lives, for people who have a certain amount of ambition or passion for life itself, passion for the things that they're doing, right? It's not for somebody who's just cruising by and going, oh yeah, sure, life is just happening to me. It's for people who see something bigger or something amazing for themselves that they could experience in their lives, and who find the courage, because we're not born with the courage, who find the courage to go after some of those big dreams that they have to make those things happen. Everybody in Wi-Fi Tribe is already doing that, right? Everybody has had to do something, had to go in some way against societal norms, maybe even work really hard on making a remote job or a remote business possible for them. And then ultimately take a leap to say no to the conventional lifestyle, maybe sell their car, maybe not get that mortgage for the house, and to step out into the world and go, this is the life that I'm living now, right? And so there's something magical when people who all think that way come together in one place, right? That's at the very core. If I expand that out a little bit further, I want to tell you about, I guess, the values that these people have, because that's what we use in our admissions process to bring the right kind, I say the right kind, the people that mesh, the people that resonate together, right? So we look for people who are thoughtful, who are caring, who give something to the group, right? If everybody's giving a little bit, then you have an incredible experience. We look for people who are inclusive. We look for people who are humble, right? So there's this balance of, sure, ambition and drive and excitement and passion, but balanced with humility, right? Luckily, humility, arrogance, or a big ego find it hard to hide. So when we have our interviews, it's very easy to see when somebody's coming in with a big ego. So it's one of the very easy things to filter out early on. Right? And then we look for people who have a little bit more of that adventurous spirit, right? So people who are easygoing, who like to go with the flow. It's everything at Wi-Fi Tribe is co-created. Everything, right? Whether it's our global community where people travel together on their own terms and organize their own trips and then invite each other to them, or the Wi-Fi Tribe official chapters that we do where people join, but they're still co-creating every weekend trip and everything that we do throughout the week, right? So what you need is not just a person who's willing to add something and contribute to the group, but also someone who's easygoing and receptive of other people's ideas. So there's also this concept of, I guess, having the emotional intelligence to do well in a group of people like that, and to create space for everybody else in that group as well, right? So That was a little bit wider, a little bit more of a broad explanation of it. But these are all of the different things that we look for in our admissions process. And there's a very specific breakdown of how we do that.
I love that. In your answer, you touched on a few things that I think raised some curiosity in me. You mentioned that you have members who organize their own trips, and then you have Wi-Fi Tribe official chapters. Earlier on, you spoke about a global community. And so for anyone who doesn't know and who's maybe listening in for the first time, what is Wi-Fi Tribe?
I feel like we need to ask all our members and just stitch together the answer, and we'll finally have it. It's a little bit hard to explain, but if I'm going to put it simply, Wi-Fi Tribe is the community for driven professionals who are living boldly and traveling the world together. Let me unpack that. The driven professionals component is it's kind of who we're looking for. It's part of who we want to bring together. Living boldly, talked about it now. It's about how you see life and what decisions you make and how you go about things. And the traveling together part, that's just what we do. Travel is in our DNA. I'd say Wi-Fi Tribe isn't primarily about travel, and it's certainly not all about travel. It's almost like travel is the backdrop to so many of the things that we do. It's almost the container to this community and this lifestyle that we're living. But the community goes way beyond that. I think we all come together and people find Wi-Fi Tribe because they enter this lifestyle, or they have the desire to enter this lifestyle. And they're looking for a community of people who are also into that lifestyle, who are also on that journey. But as they join, they realize, it wasn't really about the travel, it was more about the people. And it's so cool to see, it happens every time. As you follow a person's journey from one year to the next, you see that with every year, they are making different decisions of where they're going. Initially, it's all bucket list decisions. And as you go from year to year, it becomes more and more about the people until by the end of it, everybody says they are going to go anywhere in the world for their friends. And so it's so cool. It becomes like travel becomes the opportunity to reunite with your friends somewhere around the world and spend a month there and live there together, right? So it evolves into that. And I want Wi-Fi Tribe really into the future to be a community that is here for all of our bold dreams and the future versions of our lives that we haven't even dreamed up yet, that we haven't created yet, so that we can create those together. So it effectively becomes an incubator for these bold lives that we want to live. A community incubator where people support each other on that journey and cheer each other on. Because honestly, one of the hardest things with having these big dreams for your life is to dare to take the next step, because sometimes they sound so daunting. And sometimes all it takes is somebody else next to you saying, I love that idea. You should absolutely go for it. And you know what? I want to join you. I'm right there with you.
I totally resonate with that. And sometimes, to echo what you're saying, sometimes it's not always obvious what the next step is. And so having a community of people who maybe see the world in a similar way to you gives you the ability to have a conversation about what that might look like and create it and have that support system that enables you to have that internal confidence to take that next step. And there's a whole tribe festival designed around that, but we won't get into that right now. It's called Wi-Fi Tribe Festival. You touched on it a little bit in your answer, but it's a very blunt question. The question is, where are we headed as Wi-Fi Tribe?
Wi-Fi Tribe is Wi-Fi Tribe started as trips that we did, month-long co-living, co-working group of 15 to 25 people moving around the world together. it's become a community that already exists all over the world, where people are inviting each other to travel together, to keep living this global lifestyle, but to do it together. The future of Wi-Fi Tribe is going to go further in that direction. It's going to be, the community is going to be present almost anywhere in the world where you would want to be. So wherever you go, there's already going to be a pocket of tribers there that you can meet for dinner, that you can meet for a quick weekend trip somewhere exciting, that you can meet to just go on a run, to play paddle together, to play volleyball. And it'll feel like this community that's full of your kind of people that you really resonate with. It'll feel almost like a second country that doesn't actually have Earth, that doesn't have any national boundaries, that just kind of exists everywhere and it's just floating around. And travel will always be a part of it. People are always going to be organizing trips, inviting each other to trips, and we're always going to be doing the chapters because there's such incredible experiences. There's such immersive ways to get plugged into the community. So that's not going anywhere. But this community is becoming a more global thing, a more kind of present everywhere with you thing. And it will be a community that will be with you for life if you choose for it to be that. It'll be a community that'll continue pushing and challenging you to never let go of those dreams that you have, to not live small when everybody else around you is kind of saying you should do this or you should do that. And we're going to be working from a Wi-Fi Tribe team perspective also on ways to create, I guess, actual system structures to help you achieve some of those dreams through the power of community, right? If you see community as leverage, then it can help you achieve these incredible things in your life. Community is leverage. That's how we as a human race have gotten to where we are today. There's nothing that, if you look around, there is nothing that exists that hasn't been made by the collaboration of people. Even on the very basic layers, survival happened because we worked together, right? I think we've forgotten a lot about that in modern society, especially modern Western society. And we're on this track, this idea that it's all about us, the individual, it's all about our experience, our success. And we forget that everything in life is better when we share it, but also the greatest success or the greatest dreams that we have are going to be not just so much better when we can share them with other people, but they're also so much more possible. You make your chances of building the life that you really want or achieving the dream that you have, you increase those chances by surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. It takes a community to build those dreams in your life. That's what I mean by leveraging the power of community. And that at the very core is what Wi-Fi Tribe is going to keep evolving into. Finding ways to leverage our community to help you and every other member to build out their dream lives and make that a reality.
What I hear from what you're saying is that we're actually building this incredibly beautiful high trust society at Wi-Fi Tribe, where we can collaborate with one another and where it's safe for us to dream the dreams we want and to take that conversation into the community and to leave with it actually being something that's made manifest in reality. It's really, really beautiful. Last question before we wrap up, and it's a bit of a personal one, and I'm curious about it because it's a question I've never actually asked you before.
I'm worried now.
What do you imagine your life would be like if you hadn't started Wi-Fi Tribe?
Oh, wow. It's kind of a scary idea. You know what? I think I would have stopped traveling a lot sooner. I think I would have done this lifestyle for maybe a year or two, and then I would have become disillusioned with it. I think I would have realized that it's not worth all of these beautiful places and all the excitement of travel when what I sacrifice is that I don't have a sense of continuation with people. I don't have a sense of depth existing with the people that I meet, because it was never a challenge for me to meet new people. And there's so many solo travelers out there who are just really, really good at meeting people, at socializing. But the reality is that we meet people and they leave tomorrow, or I leave tomorrow. And if we're lucky, we see them again. Maybe we see them again once a year. But that's not the continuity that I think you as a human need. What you need is what we have, back home, what we used to have, whether it's the village way back when, or back home, it's a group of friends, it's family, it's, the local community that we're part of. It's being seen and recognized by the people that we are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. I think it leaves you very hollow. I think the travel lifestyle on its own, the solo travel lifestyle without continuity in relationships, leaves you feeling empty and feeling like there's got to be something more to it. And I've seen so many people burn out from the travel lifestyle because of that. That would have been sad. Yeah. I also think I can't imagine being more obsessed over anything I could create than Wi-Fi Tribe. So I think there would be something missing. I would never know what it is, but there'd be this weird feeling of something a little empty somewhere. I'd never be able to put my finger on it because I'd never known what it was, but I certainly can't imagine feeling this amount of just excitement and passion for something that I want to exist.
It comes through so strongly while you were saying that. I was thinking to myself, you really are obsessed, and in the best way. But for anyone who's listening, if I send Diego a message at 3 a.m. about something marketing related, the chances I get a response from him are pretty high. He's probably working on something.
It might just be because I'm halfway across the world and it happens to be 5 p.m. where I am.
Okay. You're saving yourself, but I've outed you already. Yeah. The truth is out there. Cool. So last question, and this is a fun one. If you had to guess where in the world you were 5 years ago today, and we'll get the real answer from you from your camera roll after this, and we'll put it in the edit so you can see how far off he really was. Where do you think you were?
Oh, this is really, really tough. I have bad memory as it is. So I really need memory jogs. I can't look at my phone. Okay, I'm going to logic this one. 5 years ago, or 2025, summer 2025, 5 years ago, that was the pandemic. So I was, this is easy. I was locked in Germany, I believe. But I was locked in Germany. But I was just about to head out to, I might have been in Austria, because I did a little side trip, beautiful place, by the way, or Switzerland, actually. We did a trip to the Alps in Switzerland, absolutely stunning. So that might have been right around then. I'm going to check if it was that. But we were just about to head out to Cyprus, and that was going to be our first chapter back again after the pandemic. It was a hilarious chapter. Nobody knew how to socialize anymore. It was so funny to experience, just a bunch of people who used to know how to socialize. So rusty. Anyway, Milan, thank you so much for the chat, for all of the really interesting, thought-provoking questions. And I hope y'all found some value in it.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you for answering them so generously. And where can people find Wi-Fi Tribe? Where can they find more information about Wi-Fi Tribe? And where can they find maybe more information about you if they're interested?
Sure, yeah. So we're on wifitribe.co, not .com. That's the website, and it's also the Instagram handle. That's really where we're most active. And then I exist on, I think we're going to have to put this in the show notes. Nobody's going to be able to spell the name. Diego Bejarano Gerke, but, I'll put it in the show notes. But that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll see you all next time, and I'll see you next time too.